Hello, everybody. I wanted Bob to listen to a little glitter rock. So I assigned him to listen to an album by Ian Hunter that came along in 1979 called You're Never Alone with a Schizophrenic. Now, if you remember what happened with glitter rock back in the 70s, this was pretty late in the game. Punk had pretty much shoved glitter rock under a rock by this point, but a guy named Mick Ronson was still around doing this stuff, and he hooked up with Ian Hunter, who was one of the progenitors of the stuff during the mid 70s, and Ian recorded this solo album. Came out in 1979. It was his fourth. Looking back, it was the most successful album that Ian Hunter had commercially during his career. He's still cranking them out, so he's still got a chance to top it, I guess. But yeah, this one hit number 35 on the Billboard 200, which was his best selling during his solo career. But I asked Bob to listen to this because I was just interested to hear what Bob might have to say about this record.
Thanks for passing the mantle over, Scotty. This was not too much of a stretch for me. I was at least familiar with Ian Hunter, on the edges from Mott the Hoople and then as a solo artist, but I never really dug deep, never did a deep dive into either Mott the Hoople or Ian Hunter as a solo artist. So I did it on this album and came away very, very impressed. This is a hell of a good rock and roll album. And after listening to it and researching it, it deserved a better reception than it got. That it didn't go higher than 35 is criminal. This is a good album. His second and third albums kind of tanked. So Hunter was in a make it or break it type situation. And he was ably assisted on this album by some stellar musicians. Scott mentioned Mick Ronson, who was with David Bowie, in Bowie's early years. Then Ronson did some solo stuff. Then he teamed up with Hunter. And Ronson's guitar work really shines on this album. So does some of his vocals. Hunter had three members of Bruce Springsteen's E Street Band on this album. Roy Bataan on keyboards, Max Weinberg on drums, and Gary Talon on bass. So he had a hell of a rhythm section backing him up. He gets some vocal help from Eric Bloom from Blue Oyster Cult. John Cale does piano work on here, who was originally with Velvet Underground. And then Ellen Foley, who's a tremendous singer, does backup vocals. And Foley gained fame doing the vocals on Meatloaf's Bat Out of Hell album. And I also, Weinberg and Bataan were on Meatloaf's Bat Out of the Hell album. So there's kind of a reunion for some of these people. Anyway, great group of backing musicians, and they really helped drive this album. I really enjoyed the fact that there's variety on this album. Hunter comes out with some great driving rock and roll songs. Then he gets into some reflective kind of mood pieces. There's even some country elements on here. So a lot of variety right out the gate with Just Another Night, which opens the album. Hunter comes out with a driving rock and roll song. It's kind of a humorous tongue-in-cheek telling of some time he spent in the Indianapolis jail. There's some great resonant songwriting on this album. I particularly appreciated the song called Ships, where Hunter deals with a dysfunctional relationship with his father.
We're two ships that pass in the night, and we smile when we say it's all right.
Of course, we've got Cleveland Rocks on here, which is, one of Hunter's better known songs.
Little kids growing up on the skids and go Cleveland rocks, Cleveland rocks. Jonathan Gene is Moody James Dean is going Cleveland rocks,
an intro by Alan Freed, the famous disc jockey from Cleveland, who some people credit with coining the term rock and roll. Then it closes out with The Outsider, another great song that I really liked. It's got like an epic country kind of theme to it.
I don't let it to me. I don't have to see. Just let me be the outsider.
Mick Ronson gets credit for some blazing guitar work on the album. I really enjoyed it, and I want to thank Scott for turning me onto it. And I should have done a deeper dive into Mott and Ian Hunter years ago. But Scott, you picked a winner this time. I really enjoyed this album. What I consider this to be good old rock and roll, not so much glitter rock. To me, this is a little bit more straight ahead than what I normally would have put in the glitter rock thing. But labels sometimes get kind of meaningless. To me, it's a good straight ahead rock and roll album, and I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Bob. I'm glad you liked it. I thought you probably would. That's why I wanted to throw it your way. I mean, yeah, this is an album that it just from beginning to end, it just doesn't let up. Ian Hunter, there's always been two sides of Ian Hunter. He's always been, one side is just a great balls of the wall rock and roller, and the other one is sort of a Dylan-esque, the poetic, quiet side of him. Or not quiet side, but ballady side of him, and there's a couple of great ballads on here too. Bob mentioned them both, Ships and The Outsider. It got lost in that late '70s noise when there was just a million different things going on, and it got drowned out by the punk by the punk movement and the emerging new wave post punk movement going on.
And ironically, new wave and punk owe a lot to Mott the Hoople and Ian Hunter, for paving the groundwork for that. And I also thought it was kind of ironic that Ships got covered by, of all people, Barry Manilow, who had
really? I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either till I did my research. So
he actually had a hit with that. It was kind of I remember it because it was like, who the heck? What? Yeah.
I missed that one. But side one, those first three songs, Just Another Night, Wild East, and Cleveland Rocks, man, those things are just killer. They're killer songs until he brings it down a little bit with Ships and starts bringing it up again. But then once we get to side two and the third track, the longest song on the album is Bastard. That's the one where John Cale contributes a little piano work, a little keyboard work to it. It's just a nice little funk groove that just goes on forever. But yeah, it only lasts 6 minutes, but it pulls you in. It pulls you in deep. And that actually might be my favorite moment on this album when it gets to Bastard, because once that comes on, it's just, I'm done. I put everything I'm doing, if I'm doing something, just listen to the background. When that song comes on, I just stop and focus in on that song. I just love it.
Yeah, I've given this album quite a few listens, since you gave me the assignment. And every time that I start it, I go all the way through it. I mean, I have never like a couple songs and stop. I just literally, it takes me from beginning to end, and I don't stop until it's finished. That's how much it captivated me.
This is another example where Mick Ronson is pretty much a producer and the driving force here, and the guy just he knows how to produce an album. he proved it over and over again.
I've tried listening to Mick Ronson's solo stuff, and it never really did much for me, especially like Slaughter on 10th Avenue. But I really like his work here. It really stands out.
Thanks for your feedback on that one, Bob. I enjoyed listening to you to talk about this, because, like I said, this was one of my favorite unheralded albums from back in the 70s. Yeah. It never got enough attention at the time, and it still doesn't get enough attention. So thanks, everybody. Hit that subscribe button, like the video, and we will talk to you soon. So long.
sing the old man blues. Yeah, trade in your Playboy for some hush puppy shoes. One more time.